Pirates didn't bury treasure to hide it from enemies. They buried it to hide it from themselves. This psychological trick kept them from making a fatal mistake that killed more pirates than any sword or cannon. But why would burying gold underground save their lives? Pirates weren't exactly known for their retirement planning. While Hollywood loves to show treasure chests overflowing with gold doubloons, the reality was far messier and way more chaotic. Most pirates lived paycheck to paycheck, except their paychecks came from robbing other ships. Here's the thing about pirate income. It was completely unpredictable. One month they might capture a Spanish galleon loaded with silver, and the next 3 months they'd find nothing but fishing boats carrying smelly cod. No steady salary, no benefits, and definitely no pension plan. Pirates got paid only when they successfully attacked and looted other vessels, which made budgeting pretty much impossible. But what exactly were they stealing? Sure, everyone thinks about chests of gold coins, but treasure meant so much more than that. Food was treasure when you're starving at sea. Fresh water was treasure when your barrels ran dry. Cloth, spices, tools, weapons, medicine, anything useful became valuable loot. A cargo hold full of sugar or tobacco could be worth more than a handful of jewels, especially if you knew where to sell it. The weird part is how fast pirates burned through their money. Once they hit a friendly port, the spending spree began immediately. Gambling tables, taverns, brothels, and markets all competed for pirate gold. These guys would blow months of dangerous work in just a few days of partying. Makes sense, right? When tomorrow might bring a naval patrol or a deadly storm, living for today seemed like the smartest strategy. Alcohol played a huge role in draining pirate funds. Rum wasn't just a drink, it was medicine, currency, and entertainment all rolled into one. Pirates would trade valuable goods for barrels of the stuff, then drink their profits away before the next sunrise. Gambling made things even worse. Card games and dice could turn a successful raid's earnings into nothing more than IOUs and empty pockets. Then there's the fundamental problem with pirate economics. Everything was immediate. When you're constantly on the run from authorities, long-term financial planning becomes pretty pointless. Why save money for retirement when you might not survive next week's battle? This mindset created a cycle where pirates spent everything as quickly as possible, leaving nothing for emergencies or future needs. Most pirates couldn't even imagine reaching old age. The average pirate career lasted maybe 2 or 3 years before ending in death, capture, or injury. With those odds, investing in anything beyond the next port seemed foolish. They lived fast, spent faster, and rarely worried about tomorrow's consequences. This reckless spending pattern meant that even the most successful pirate crews rarely accumulated lasting wealth. But sometimes circumstances forced even the most careless spenders to think differently about their loot, especially when the treasure itself created unexpected problems. Here's the thing about pirate treasure that Hollywood got completely wrong. When most people think of pirate loot, they picture chests overflowing with gold doubloons and sparkling jewels. But the reality? Most pirates spent their careers stealing fabric, spices, and barrels of molasses. Not exactly the stuff of legends, right? The average merchant ship carried whatever made money in those days. Cotton from the Americas, silk from Asia, sugar, tobacco, and rum. Sometimes iron tools or weapons. Gold and precious stones were incredibly rare finds, like hitting the lottery. Most pirates went their entire careers without seeing a single emerald or ruby. The real treasure was staying fed and keeping their ships running. But here's where things get tricky. Even when pirates did score big, they couldn't exactly stroll into the nearest bank and make a deposit. Everything had to be divided immediately among the crew according to strict pirate codes. The captain got his share, the quartermaster got his, and everyone else split what remained. No time for secret stashing when 30 hungry pirates are watching every coin get counted. Then there's the problem nobody talks about. What do you do with stolen silk in the middle of the Caribbean? You can't eat it, and you can't spend it directly. Pirates had to find shady traders willing to buy hot merchandise at terrible prices. A bolt of expensive fabric might sell for a fraction of its real value just because it was obviously stolen. Makes sense that some pirates preferred to bury valuable goods rather than sell them cheap to crooked dealers. And the weird part is how impractical most treasure actually was for life on the run. Try carrying 300 silver coins while climbing ship rigging during a storm. Heavy treasure slowed pirates down when speed meant survival. Gold might be valuable, but it's also incredibly heavy and hard to hide quickly. The famous treasure chest filled with doubloons? Pure fiction, mostly. Real pirates used whatever containers they could find. Old barrels, canvas sacks, even cooking pots. They weren't exactly shopping at the local treasure chest store between raids. Let's not forget that most pirate crews shared everything immediately because trust was rare and tempers ran hot. Leave valuable loot unguarded for 5 minutes and it might disappear faster than free pizza at a college dorm. Immediate division meant immediate spending, which meant no treasure left to bury. Well, except when things went sideways. When Navy ships appeared on the horizon or colonial authorities started closing in, suddenly that practical approach to treasure sharing became a major problem. Because nothing changes a pirate's spending habits quite like the prospect of a hanging. And that's when desperate measures started making a lot more sense. Living as a pirate meant constantly looking over your shoulder. Navy ships prowled the seas like hungry sharks, and merchant vessels started traveling in armed convoys. Colonial governors posted bounties on pirate heads, turning every port into a potential trap. The golden age of piracy, more like the golden age of paranoia. When pirates spotted those telltale Navy sails on the horizon, panic set in fast. Running battles could last for hours, and smart pirates knew that capture meant a short trip to the gallows. Death sentences were practically guaranteed. Makes sense, right? Governments weren't exactly in a forgiving mood when it came to sea robbers. Here's where things get interesting. Captain William Kidd became the poster child for desperate treasure hiding. Originally hired as a privateer to hunt pirates, Kidd crossed the line and turned pirate himself. But when he realized the authorities were closing in, he made a crucial decision. Instead of spending his loot on rum and women like most pirates, he buried treasure on Gardiner's Island near New York. The weird part is, this actually worked as insurance. Kidd got arrested anyway, but his buried treasure became bargaining chips. He hoped trading information about hidden loot might save his neck from the noose. Spoiler alert, it didn't. They hanged him in 1701, but his treasure hiding made him legendary. Then there's the practical side that most people miss. Pirates didn't just fear capture, they feared losing everything to government seizure. Authorities would confiscate every last doubloon they could find aboard pirate ships. Imagine spending months risking your life for treasure, only to watch officials cart it all away while you rot in chains. Well, some clever pirates figured out this loophole. Hide the goods before capture, survive prison or execution attempts, then return later for the buried stash. Blackbeard supposedly used this strategy multiple times, though proving it is nearly impossible since dead pirates don't exactly leave detailed records. But why didn't more pirates follow this logical approach? Fear made people do stupid things. When Navy ships appeared, most pirates either fought desperately or tried outrunning their pursuers, stopping to dig holes and bury treasure chests. That takes precious time when every minute could mean the difference between freedom and death. The constant threat created this bizarre cycle. Pirates needed to spend their loot quickly because tomorrow might bring capture. Yet the same threat sometimes forced them to bury treasure as emergency backup plans. Most chose immediate gratification over long-term security. The legal pressure was relentless and everywhere. Colonial governments offered pardons occasionally, but these deals often came with conditions that made pirates nervous about revealing hidden treasure locations. Trust was a luxury most couldn't afford. However, understanding why some pirates buried treasure is just half the story. Even when they wanted to spend their loot freely, finding safe places to do business created entirely different challenges. Even the richest pirate captain faced a massive problem that landlubbers never think about. What good is a chest full of stolen Spanish silver if nobody will buy it from you? Pirates couldn't exactly stroll into London's finest markets with armloads of obviously stolen goods. They needed special places where questions weren't asked and coins changed hands quickly. These pirate havens became legendary for good reason. Port Royal in Jamaica was basically the Las Vegas of the 1600s, where anything went and everybody looked the other way. Nassau in the Bahamas turned into Pirate Central for decades. Tortuga off Haiti's coast welcomed sea criminals with open arms. Madagascar, that massive island off Africa, became home to dozens of pirate settlements where stolen goods flowed like water. But here's where things get tricky for our treasure-hunting pirates. These havens weren't permanent. Governments kept shutting them down whenever they got too bold or too rich. One year, Port Royal is booming with pirates selling everything from silk to slaves. The next year, the Royal Navy shows up, and suddenly everyone's either dead, captured, or running for their lives. The weird part is how quickly these market crashes happened. Pirates would sail back to their favorite port with ships loaded down with loot, only to find the place crawling with soldiers or completely abandoned. Now what? You're sitting on a fortune in stolen goods with nowhere to sell them and naval patrols closing in fast. This created some genuinely desperate situations. Imagine having enough valuable cargo to live like a king for years, but no safe way to turn it into actual spending money. Some pirates tried sailing to different ports, but that meant burning through supplies and risking capture on longer voyages. Others attempted dealing with shadier traders who paid terrible prices and might turn them in anyway. When faced with these impossible choices, burying treasure suddenly made perfect sense. Rather than lose everything to the authorities or accept pennies from crooked dealers, smart pirates would hide their best loot on remote islands or coastlines. They'd wait for the heat to die down, for new pirate-friendly ports to open up, or for better trading opportunities to appear. Madagascar pirates especially did this because they operated so far from European markets. They'd raid ships in the Indian Ocean, accumulate massive amounts of valuable goods, then realize they had no practical way to spend their wealth. The island became dotted with hidden stashes as pirates essentially created their own underground banking system. The collapse of major pirate havens probably created more buried treasure than any other single factor. When your entire economic system depends on lawless ports and those ports disappear overnight, hiding your fortune becomes the only logical choice. Makes sense, right? Well, that creates another problem entirely. Even if you successfully bury your treasure and wait out the danger, you still need to trust the people around you won't betray your secret location. Even among thieves, trust was about as rare as a clean pirate shirt. Pirates might sing together and drink together, but when it came to splitting up the loot, that's when things got interesting. Most pirate crews had official rules about sharing treasure. Everyone got their fair portion based on rank and job. Sounds fair, right? Well, not every captain felt like following those rules. Some sneaky captains would skim off the top before the crew even knew how much they'd stolen. They'd quietly bury their extra share somewhere safe, telling the crew they'd found less treasure than they actually had. The crew got their normal cut and never suspected a thing. But captains weren't the only ones playing dirty games. Regular crew members pulled the same tricks when they could. If a pirate found a small bag of coins or a valuable ring during a raid, he might just slip it into his pocket instead of adding it to the group pile. Later, when they reached shore, he'd bury his secret stash for safekeeping. Smart move, considering how quickly pirates burned through money once the drinking started. Then there's the bigger problem of crew loyalty. Pirates switched sides faster than weather vanes in a hurricane. Maybe the captain was too harsh, or another ship offered better opportunities, or they just got tired of the current crew. When a pirate decided to jump ship, he needed backup money. Buried treasure became his insurance policy. He could disappear in the middle of the night, knowing he had emergency funds waiting for him somewhere. The really paranoid pirates took this even further. They'd bury small amounts of treasure at multiple locations, creating their own personal network of hidden banks. Makes sense when you think about it. Pirates lived dangerous lives where everything could go wrong in minutes. Having money stashed away meant survival if their current situation fell apart. Captain Edward Lowe was notorious for this kind of scheming. He'd pretend to share everything fairly with his crew, but witnesses later claimed he buried personal stashes all along the Caribbean coast. His crew never knew about these secret burials because Lowe always did the dirty work alone, usually at night when everyone else was sleeping or too drunk to notice. Privacy was absolutely essential for this kind of operation. Most treasure burying happened in complete secrecy. No maps, no witnesses, no partners, just one paranoid pirate with a shovel and a serious trust problem. They'd memorize landmarks instead of writing anything down because written evidence could be stolen or discovered. The weird part is that this suspicious behavior actually made perfect sense in their world. Pirates face betrayal from their own crews, attacks from enemy ships, and constant pursuit by authorities. But even with all these practical reasons for hiding treasure, most of their buried loot would face an entirely different set of problems that no amount of planning could solve. Here's the thing about buried treasure that'll blow your mind. The biggest reason we think pirates buried their loot everywhere? Books and movies made it up. Well, mostly anyway. Robert Louis Stevenson basically invented the whole treasure map thing when he wrote Treasure Island in 1883. Before that book came out, nobody really talked about pirates drawing maps with big X marks showing where they hid their gold. Stevenson needed a cool plot device, so he created one. And boy, did it stick. Then Edgar Allan Poe jumped in with his story, The Gold Bug, a few decades earlier, featuring cryptic clues and secret codes leading to buried pirate treasure. These writers took maybe one or two real examples of pirates actually hiding stuff and turned it into the defining characteristic of pirate life. Pretty wild how fiction can rewrite history, right? But here's where it gets interesting. Captain Kidd really did bury some treasure, and that one real case gave all the fictional stories just enough truth to feel believable. Kidd stashed some loot on Gardiner's Island near New York while trying to negotiate his way out of piracy charges. The authorities found it pretty quickly, but the damage was done. One real buried treasure chest became the foundation for thousands of fake treasure maps in adventure stories. William Captain Kidd wasn't even a typical pirate to begin with. He started as a privateer working legally for the English government before things went sideways. His treasure burial was pure desperation, not some grand pirate tradition. Yet his story became the template that every treasure hunting tale would follow. The weird part is how few pirates actually buried anything valuable. We're talking maybe 3 or 4 documented cases in the entire golden age of piracy. That's out of thousands of pirates sailing the seas. Your odds of finding buried pirate treasure are worse than winning the lottery while getting struck by lightning. Most real pirates would have laughed at the idea of drawing detailed maps to their hidden loot. These guys couldn't read or write well enough to create the elaborate coded maps we see in movies. Plus, remember what we covered earlier about trust issues? Drawing a map means other people might find it. The treasure-burying myth got so popular that even serious historians had trouble separating fact from fiction for decades. Coastal towns started claiming every mysterious hole in the ground was a pirate treasure site. Tourism boards loved it. Local legends exploded. Everyone wanted their piece of the pirate treasure pie. Here's the real kicker, though. While fiction writers were busy inventing elaborate treasure hunting adventures, actual pirate treasure was disappearing in ways nobody expected. Sometimes nature itself became the ultimate treasure thief, and that's a story worth telling. Nature had a funny way of turning pirates into accidental treasure barriers. When a massive storm caught your ship off guard, you didn't exactly have time to debate whether hiding your loot was smart strategy. You grabbed what you could, dug a hole, and prayed you'd live to see morning. Sometimes the pirates made it through the storm, sometimes they didn't. Death was the ultimate treasure protector. A pirate captain might bury his share after a successful raid, planning to retrieve it once the heat died down, but then a Navy patrol caught up with him 3 weeks later. Boom. Instant execution. That carefully hidden chest stays buried forever, and nobody else knows where to look. The pirate took his secret to the grave, literally. Prison worked just as effectively as death for creating lost treasure. Captain William Kidd buried treasure on Gardiner's Island, but he got arrested before he could return for most of it. He spent years in jail, then got hanged. His treasure? Some was recovered, but rumors persist that more remained hidden. Kidd never got his second chance. Then there's the memory problem. Pirates weren't exactly scholars keeping detailed records. You bury your loot near a distinctive rock formation or under a specific tree, thinking you'll remember forever. But 3 months later, after countless bottles of rum and several head injuries from sword fights, that unforgettable landmark becomes frustratingly forgettable. Was it the palm tree with the bent trunk or the one with the split branches? Let's not forget how the environment fought against buried treasure. Beaches shift constantly. Tides wash away markers, storms reshape coastlines, and hurricanes can completely alter an island's geography. That treasure buried 10 paces from the waterline might now be underwater or buried under 20 feet of sand. Mother Nature didn't care about pirate retirement plans. Other treasure hunters created problems too. Even if a pirate remembered his hiding spot perfectly, he might return to find someone else had beaten him to it. Local residents sometimes stumbled across buried chests, or rival pirates followed clues and claimed the loot for themselves. Finders keepers worked both ways. The weird part is how many treasure hunters still believe they can find these lost hoards. Metal detectors sweep beaches from the Caribbean to Madagascar, searching for chests that might not even exist anymore. Some treasure has been found, coins wash up occasionally, and archaeological digs sometimes uncover pirate artifacts. But for every real discovery, there are thousands of empty holes dug by hopeful searchers. Modern technology keeps the dream alive. Underwater metal detectors, ground-penetrating radar, and satellite mapping give treasure hunters tools pirates never imagined. Yet most buried pirate treasure remains exactly where fate left it, lost to time, weather, and the simple fact that dead pirates tell no tales. The golden age of piracy ended centuries ago, but the hunt continues. Somewhere out there, real pirate treasure waits in the darkness, keeping its secrets safe.